Hello. Oh, there we go. Hi, can you all hear me? Great, awesome. Welcome to the educational seminar called How to Grow Your Fleet from 0 to 20 Trucks. Today we have a few panelists on here. So this session is really about how to grow your fleet from 0 to 20 trucks and actually beyond, right? So just a show of hands, can you raise your hand if you have less than 5 trucks? Great. Fleet owner, operator, great. If you have between 5 to 20 trucks, raise your hand. Okay, great. If you have between 20 to 100 trucks, please raise your hand. Great. And 100 plus. Okay, great. So I like to do that in the beginning of these talks just to kind of get a sense of the room. And we really want to focus this talk on you and delivering value to you, right? I know I talked to a few of you, you're just getting your MC, you're just getting started, or you have 3 trucks and you want to grow, right? And so this panel is, we're grateful, right? Because we have a lot of experienced people here. We have representation from drivers. We have folks that have managed over 3,000 drivers. And we have people that have grown their actual fleet from 0 to 20 trucks in about 3 to 4 months, right? And so it's really about, I'm hoping it's going to be very actionable, and you can actually take something away from this talk and implement it in your fleet to grow your fleet, implement today or tomorrow, right? And actually start growing your company. Before we start, what are some of the things that are keeping you or your company, your fleet, from growing? And just go ahead and shout it out, because I want to make sure we hit these topics during the talk today. Finding good drivers. What else? Truck prices. Great. How many people are having a tough time finding new drivers? Okay, like everybody. Okay. Truck prices. How many of that is a bottleneck? Okay. What else? Capital. So factoring. Okay. How many of you factoring or capital is an issue? Okay. What else? Truck parts. Finding truck parts at affordable prices. Raise your hand if that's an issue for you guys. A few of you guys? Okay, great. What else? Fuel prices. Raise your hand if fuel prices are a pain in the neck for you right now. Okay, everybody. Anything else? Brokers. Where's the broker booth? Brokers. Raise your hand if dealing with brokers is an issue from growing your fleet. Okay, what else? What was that? Good what? Mechanics. Good mechanics. So finding good mechanics. Is that an issue? Okay, a few of you. What else is preventing you from growing your fleet? What else? Okay, I think we hit a lot of the main pain points, right? Good drivers, fuel prices, finding trucks, finding truck parts, factoring financing, right? And auto parts. Awesome. So we're going to hit all of those topics today, and we're going to hear from people that have successfully grown their fleet regarding how they're actually navigating that, right? And how they're breaking through those issues and problems and getting to their next level. So everybody here is a pretty diverse crowd. We have people from less than 5 trucks. We have people with 5 to 20, 20 to 100, and a few with 100 plus, right? So wherever you're at in your business, your journey, don't compare yourself to other people, right? We always say a rising tide lifts all boats. And the more we share information and the more we help each other, right, and we know what's going on in the industry, then everybody succeeds, right? This is a place of abundance, right? So it's all about helping each other and lifting each other up. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, please, where we're going to introduce our panelists here. Great. So left to right, we have Hans Galland. He's the founder and CEO of Beyond Trucks, which is an all-in-one portal to help grow your fleet and help with a lot of the issues that a lot of us are going through right now. Before that, he was the owner of LaGrange Express, where he grew his fleet from 0 to 20 trucks in about 3 to 4 months using technology. Okay. And then next to Hans, we have Natasha Martinez. She's the head of customer success at Beyond Trucks. Before this, she was the head of fleet operations for LaGrange Express. And before that, she was actually an executive operator, managing, hiring, and retaining over 3,000 drivers, and able to find those good drivers, manage them and retain them, right? So she'll be talking about, how do you go about finding those good drivers? How do you actually retain them, right? Because we all know inflation, it costs a lot of money, right, to recruit good drivers, and then it costs even more when they just turn over. You don't want them turning over. Okay, so she's going to be talking about that. And last but certainly not least, we have Ms. Sheree from She Trucking. She is a founder and CEO of She Trucking. They have a network of over 30,000 drivers that are ambitious, trained, and hungry to work with amazing fleet owners that I'm sure all of you in this room are, right? And so that's, a great contact. And she'll also be speaking on other stages as well. So definitely take a picture. Visit all these people at their booths, right? We're all in the North Wing lobby. And so we're going to go ahead and dive in, right? So that said, we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I think the first issue that people have when growing their fleet, right, was drivers, finding and retaining good drivers. So let's go ahead and start with that. And Natasha, so before helping to spearhead and grow a fleet from 0 to 20 in 4 months, you were managing over 3,000 drivers, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that? First of all, can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you were working before, right? She was a vice president of operations at a large corporation where they had to constantly recruit new drivers, find the good ones, right? And train them and retain them. How did you do that?
So I'll do it quickly in my background. So I've been in trucking for a little over 20 plus years, mainly in the wholesale distribution facilities. So I'm sure some of you have either delivered or picked up deliveries for some type of grocery store. So I was the vice president of operations and transportation for UNFI Natural Foods, Super Value based out of Minnesota, as well as CNS Wholesale. So my background, again, has been in large corporations. I recently, from then, did some consulting for small trucking companies to kind of all do the exact same thing and help them grow and teach them and build. I've been with Beyond Trucks and LaGrange Express for about a little over a year now. And when we first started off, Hans and the team were looking to start the next carrier. Like we wanted to do a virtual carrier, but really mainly around driver success and teaching the drivers how to become basically be their own company and learn how to do that kind of stuff. So we did grow from about 0 to 20 in almost 5 months. And it was super crazy. I think we could have gotten a little bit larger if we didn't have the same problem, right? Trucks, we couldn't come across trucks was a big issue. My biggest thing that I always say about driver retention, which is why I was really focused on this, was drivers like attention. So it doesn't matter what we think. They're behind the wheel for 14 hours a day, and they want to be able to call and talk to somebody. That's what it is. You want to automate all the great things that you don't have to spend your time on, so that way when the driver does want to call to complain about sitting at a shipper too long, or they just wanted to talk to somebody about how their day, or the person that almost ran them off the road, whatever it is, right? You still want some personal connection. So my thing for driver retention is transparency, consistency, and then still having that touch, because they still, at the end of the day, like they're out there away from their families. Could be days, could be weeks, depending on where they're going. So I think that for me, it's been my go-to for driver retention.
That's amazing. And I want to hear from each of these panelists. So Ms. Sheree, right, she's a driver herself, right? And she represents She Trucking. I'm going to have her give a little self-introduction, what you do, and representing diversity and inclusion in the trucking industry, and what kind of opportunities there are in terms of hiring good drivers, retaining them.
So hello, everybody. My name is Sheree Moore. I've been driving trucks for 8 years now. I'm the founder of the She Trucking Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization for women and minorities to have successful careers in the transportation industry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you go better.
So my experience, we have over, like you said, 30,000 women drivers in our community. We have a mentorship program. We really listen to our drivers when they're speaking. What they want is the truth. Tell them the truth. Let them know what your expectations is. We don't know that, right? So each carrier in this room, and I'm just giving advice, straightforward, okay? So each carrier in the room, y'all all have different type of qualifications, right? You may want a driver on the West Coast. Another may want a daytime driver. You got to understand that you have to seek a driver who meets your needs, right? So some drivers smoke, some drivers don't. That's a question you need to ask, right? Do you have pets? Just write this down, take notes. If you're looking for drivers, you might want to take some notes, okay? Because I am a driver and I'm trying to tell you what we're looking for. So if you don't have a driver, why? You might not be advertising in the right place. I'm looking on Craigslist, right? I'm looking on the Intel app. If your application is a paper app, I'm not filling it out. Okay, I'm gonna just be honest. I like Intel computer. We're in 2022. The easiest the application are for me to fill out, the quicker I'm gonna apply, right? How do you keep a driver? Clean trucks. I'm a woman. I like clean trucks. Okay, make sure you're maintaining the truck. Okay, make sure you're bringing it in to keep it serviced so we can be safe on the road. Because I'm concerned if that truck is not safe, right? If you got to look at your truck. I know some carriers never even seen their truck before, right? Bring it in. Keep that maintenance going, okay, monthly at least, right? Every time that's your back office. What I like about Beyond Trucks is can I speak about that now? Because Beyond Trucks keep everything in order for you. I'm a carrier as well, so I do have my own semi-truck. Okay, and a trailer. My trailer has my face on it. I'm driving it all across the United States, so I understand the struggle, and I'm driving, trying to keep the maintenance up, trying to keep all this paperwork. How do we do it, right? What's the system? But I'm going to pass the torch now. And, but yeah, if you need a driver, one thing I will say is just making sure that you are being transparent. As transparent as possible. Learn about your truck. Okay, what type of equipment do you have? That's the type of conversation that driver want to hear, okay?
I swear we did not pay her to say that. No, but we met Sheree just through, the networking conferences and other events in the trucking industry. And we're going to hear a little bit from Hans here. This is not in his bio because he's super humble and he hates mentioning this stuff. But before getting into the trucking industry and growing a successful fleet, Hans grew up in a small town, less than 500 people, I think, 300 people in a small village in Switzerland, and really humble means. And just before this, he was in private equity, built businesses to over $1.8 billion, right? And I don't know if anybody has seen that kind of money. Let me know where it's at, because I'm like, what? Billion with a B? Yeah. And then he's actually a graduate of Stanford Business School. And the company Beyond Trucks, it's backed by some of the, leading institutional funds and thought leaders of technology from Silicon Valley, right? And, a lot of times it's just, you see TV and you're like, it's so distant. For me, I'm from Elizabethtown, from Pennsylvania, Amish County, Pennsylvania. And so sometimes when we hear like, oh, Silicon Valley tech, it seems so distant, right? But we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. But Hans is sort of backed by all these leading technology institutions because they saw opportunity and in Beyond Trucks in terms of how efficient it is and how much it's serving the market, right? And an opportunity to make money as well. The thing is, if you're helping other people to make money, then you should make money yourself, right? The path to success is helping other people be successful. And I think that's what Beyond Trucks is doing. That's what Ms. Sheree was talking a little bit about earlier, right? The mission is, and you as a fleet owner should make more money, right? If you're helping your drivers grow, then you should and deserve to grow as well, right? And your revenue and your profit margins, right? Again, we all believe this is a rising tide raises all boats, right? There's enough freight, there's enough opportunities, there's enough loads for everybody. It all comes down to mindset and making sure you have the systems and tools and the right information to be able to execute that, right? So I'd love to hear, Hans, if you can give a little bit of background about Beyond Trucks, LaGrange, growing your fleet from 0 to 20 trucks in about 3-4 months, and how you did that with technology.
Thanks, Kay.
And drivers, right? The core issue that a lot of folks are having here.
Wonderful. A little bit of background on what we did. So we did build our own fleet because we wanted to understand the fundamental problems that you all face. But what is unusual about just starting a trucking company like us, we also had one engineer, software engineer, for one driver. And we said, okay, if we want to solve the problems, we actually need to use new technology, build new technology for solve fundamental problems, such as driver retention. I loved what you said. The very first thing that you said is tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. What technology allows us to do is build transparency with our drivers and take out the human for a moment and just say the fundamental facts. What are you going to be paid on a load? You know, what are you going to be deducted from your settlement? All of that shouldn't be subjective. It's a fact. Technology can build transparency, and then it builds trust, because what you see on your settlement statement is very transparent, and that's what you get paid. So taking it back a little, the other thing that he said was really interesting is like driver care. One of the most important questions that I usually ask myself when I start a company is, what business am I in? We all know we are in the trucking business, but maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. Maybe we are in the driver care business. What if we think of ourselves as being in the driver care business? How would we run our trucking company differently if we think of ourselves as being in the driver care business? Thank you. So one of the funny things what we realized when we started settling driver pay, we initially settled driver pay with a 2-day time lag. So drivers saw on their app that they're going to be paid $2,750. And 2 days later, they would get the money on the bank account. It was okay. Everyone was fine. We did a little tweak. We managed to go to instantaneous settlement. Like literally, the moment you see they get their settlement, they can turn a page on the app and see that the money's in the bank. We didn't think it would make a difference. It made a huge difference because it's you see the fruits of your labor and you can feel it. It's emotional. Made a huge difference for our drivers. So that's some of the fundamental basic things that we learned in building the company, trucking company first, technology second.
Great, thank you so much. I want to push a little bit and dig a little bit, right? Because everybody's saying, I think the biggest thing was transparency. I like the driver care. So it's always putting people first, right? Let's be real. If you put people first, if you take care of your people, if you service your customers, if you do good work, not even hard work, right? It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter and increasing your quality of work, right? If you deliver, right, then people will stay. If your drivers stay and they're happy, they'll tell other drivers, right? We'd love to hear from Sheree about that and how other drivers recruit other drivers.
Driver retention. Mm-hmm. Driver retention is something that we focus on. The reason I got 30,000 drivers in my community and we keep them, they keep coming, right, is because of the way we treat them. So if you got to realize, everybody think, I need a truck. What you need is a driver, okay? Because that truck don't drive itself. So you have to treat the driver kind. If we calling you at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, you get an attitude, guess what? Do I want to drive your truck? Answer the phone because I could be in an emergency. When you see accidents on the road, my dad is a driver. My dad is on the road right now. Miss Linda, she highlighted our story in the trucker paper if you're interested in it. But my dad has been driving 17 years. It's been 8 years. So when I look at an accident, guess what? I think about it. Is it one of my community, my sisters, a person on my team? Is it my father or is it one of us? You get what I'm saying? You got to think that same way and treat the driver like family. That right there, it helps with driver retention. And pay. Increase your pay. We want the money. Give us the money.
Don't be greedy, share.
Yeah, so again, I want to dig a little bit deeper because I want to make sure we're answering and we're getting sort of, actionable takeaways. Everybody's sitting here that wants to grow their fleet and saying they have driver problems. So I think transparency, being transparent with how much you're receiving and how much you're giving your driver, what's the profit margin of of the company, and of the owner as well, right? We hosted an event in Columbus, Ohio, and one gentleman, Brad, he's the owner of 5 Aces, has 8 trucks, and he said, our drivers came to me the other day and said, Brad, we want to double revenue this year. He didn't tell them, he didn't have a meeting, he didn't even plant C's. He was like, I was in tears because his drivers came to him to say, Brad, we want to double company revenue, because he treats them so well, right? And Natasha, you talked a little bit about, we'll go to you next. You know, she talked about just automating all the stuff that let the machine and the computers and the technology do it. You cannot replace fundamental aspects of people, of any human being, right? Which is caring for your people. That's why Sheree has 30,000 drivers loyal to her community, and it keeps growing and growing. She's able to attract those drivers to her community because she cares about them, and she treats them like people, like the way she wants to be treated, or I'm sure better, right? And so, Natasha, can you talk a little bit about sort of, you know, you've seen both schools, the old school way of trucking, managing 3,000 drivers, the new school way of trucking, the next generation way of building your fleet for the future, 0 to 20 trucks in 3 to 4 months using technology. Can you tell us a little bit about the old school way of building a fleet, the new school way of growing a fleet? What's the biggest difference? What do you think, and what do you think is next in the future? And what's one advice you can give everybody here to be able to implement? So I know those are big
that's
things.
a lot of questions.
Yeah,
at
that's a
one
lot of
time.
questions. Pick your favorite one.
Yeah, so I would say when I first started off in trucking, so I'm from Texas, and we were a small family-owned grocery wholesaler down in Texas and Houston, and we did it Big Chief tablet, number 2 pencil. That's the way we did it. We were 3rd generation, and every time we tried to do something a little bit different, it was always, we've always done it this way. We've always done it this way. The drivers are never going to want to do anything different. They're not going to want to change. And so we had like multiple dispatch books for pass down books and trying to tell the next dispatcher what happened on the last load and where everybody's at. And you drop the ball a lot. And what happens is it's not even dropping the ball on getting deliveries. It may be dropping a ball on a driver, or not forgetting that he had a complaint, or he's broke down on the side of the road. How many people have forgot that there was a driver broke down on the side of the road because he called in at midnight and you went back to sleep, and then you thought you called somebody to come fix him, and then you couldn't. They never showed up. And like 6 hours later, you're like, oh my goodness, you're still on the side of the road. So I've seen us kind of try to slowly bring technology in, and when you're in like a 3rd generation, and we had some good conversation with some 3rd generation carriers last night, there is a struggle. There's a struggle with old school drivers. Yeah, drivers that are, you know, in their 70s still out there driving. Again, I'm sure Sheree's dad still out there likes to just kind of, he knows exactly how to do it, right? 2 books inside of his bag, one that you show the trooper and one that you keep on your own when you need to, right? Tapping. Been there, done that. I've seen them open the bank. Hopefully they open the right book. I've seen them not open the right book before. And then again, it's also like all that paperwork. So I think about what the difference I've learned and kind of going on to the carrier side now was bill of ladings at some of these shippers are massive. They're 15 pages long, right? That person's truck is not only their home, it's their office, it's where they take their naps, it's where they take a break, it could be where they pick up their girlfriend at. I don't know. Can you imagine all that paperwork that they're trying to keep track of, and then trying to make sure you get a copy of it so you can invoice your customer, so you can get paid, so you can pay me? Oh, and don't forget the accessorials that I had, right? All my detention and my lumper, and does this receipt go to that place? So technology is huge. Everybody now can use a cell phone. Even my 84-year-old mother can use a cell phone. She might complain about it, but she can do it. So technology it's very simple. You take a picture of the bill of lading, you take a picture of the lumper, you create it. Again, technology is putting it all together, pushing one button to send an invoice to your factoring company or to your customer in a nice professional format that you want it to look like. it doesn't matter if you're a one-person driver or if you're a 10-company driver. You got to be professional, right? You want to stand out like anybody else stands out. You want to be just as professional as everybody else. So those are very important things. I think it's a little bit of it's a push sometimes. Drivers don't necessarily always like to be tracked. They don't want you to always know where they're at. So not everybody wants to be on ELDs. Not everybody wants to have an app that you can figure out where I'm at. But at the end of the day, like, that's where we're going to. And at some point, you know, these last couple of years, how many drivers have not been allowed on docks anymore? You can't even go onto a dock to get a signature. You can't go on a dock to go count your load any longer, right? So it's going to very hands-off, and technology is perfect timing for it right now.
Awesome, thanks. So, I mean, clearly, you have a lot of experience, like over 20 years in the trucking industry, dealing with growing a fleet, again, from 0 to 20 in 3 to 4 months. Before that, managing over 3,000 drivers. And I think the biggest takeaway was technology. And I think, you know, it's about finding the right technology for you and your business and where you're at and where you want to go, right? Obviously, Beyond Trucks, and I'll be honest, the sweet spot there that Beyond Trucks serves is 1 to 50 trucks, maybe 1 to 100. Above 100, it's, you know, you're probably better off with something else. And this is, if you're interested, we're in the North Wing lobby, 40477. You can come see a demo. But again, this is more about you guys and what's best for you. And do your research, do your homework, go out there, you know, go to google.com, talk to all these people here in the booth and figure out what's the best solution for you, right? And if somebody's trying to sell you something to everybody, then if you're trying to sell to everybody, you're selling to nobody, right? Find something that works for you, that's easy, right? I would say something that's easy, and then, you know, onboarding from old drivers to new hires is easy. And do your research, do your homework, and figure out, make sure you know where you want to go, and then work backwards from there. There are many, many communities out there, right? Mentors that Shrey has, you know, a network 30,000, and there's so many groups out there. Surround yourself, and I would say not even the booths. Talk to the people next to you. Talk to the people that you meet here, right? You have 45 trucks, you want to get to 60, find somebody that's already there and talk to them, pick their brain, right? Don't just talk to the people and the vendors in the booth. Talk to other fleet owners and exchange notes. And don't be cagey about your notes. Listen, again, it's a huge market, right? There's plenty for everybody. Share. The more you give, the more you're going to get, right? And make sure you're sharing with your fellow fleet owners. Exchange ideas, because that, again, rising tide lifts all boats, right? And that said, with the technology, so Hans, can you talk a little bit about sort of, again, the driver retention, putting people first, the automation, and sort of what does that actually do? Like, how does that actually help fleet owners?
I think we have one customer. He's a small fleet owner, and he has 8 trucks. And I ask him, do you want to grow? He says, no, I don't want to grow. And then ask him why. He says, well, I don't want to lose touch with my drivers. It takes us back to the driver care business, right? So when we think of ourselves as being in the driver care business, we want to, as fleet owners, we want to spend as much time possible on driver care. And then we should think about where can technology come in to take away all the workload that doesn't contribute to driver care, and that maybe is burdensome or menial or repetitive. And in that instance, if it's repetitive, menial, and somewhat standardized, you can actually put a robot behind it. So we started looking at what is known as robotic process automation, RPA, is how can we help fleet owners, at that time actually our own fleet, to automate a lot of the work steps that are in your back office. How can you, at the very simple, the most simple way, how can you remove paper invoices but do digital invoices? How can you, issue an invoice with one click of a button instead of taking a trip envelope, pulling out the bill of lading, reviewing the bill of lading, comparing it against your rate con, and then putting in a top tray of your accountant, who then once a week batches it and issues an invoice to the broker or the shipper. So
let's ask the audience. Raise your hand if you're using that sort of like traditional invoices, whether it's a PDF or how about email attachment? Okay, so imagine never having to do an email attachment ever again. Right.
Yeah. So for instance, for us, our portal sends emails automatically for you. You just click a button, invoice, it's gone. So we try to empower fleet owners to really focus, do away with the menial stuff that doesn't help you take care of your drivers, and allow you as a human, be human, and leverage your human potential to the best as taking care of your drivers. It's very funny. Someone asked me this question the other day. It's like, what do you think is going to happen with autonomous trucks? And we talked about how fast it's going to be and how the drivers will change and how the fleet owners will change. But the interesting thing is we came back to the topic of even if you have autonomous trucks for a very long time, you'll still have safety drivers. So even think about if you take better care of your driver, technically the safety of your operation should increase drastically. So what if your dispatcher today is no longer a dispatcher, but is actually going to be a driver care manager? If that's 100% of what that guy does, he becomes very influential when it comes to safety. She or he will have probably the biggest impact on your safety, probably more than any preventative maintenance technology, because they're still the human safety driver in an autonomous truck. So think of anything you do for driver care will radically improve not only retention and hiring of new drivers, but also the safety of your operation.
Awesome, thanks. And I think we heard from the audience earlier, so other issues and bottlenecks preventing you from actually growing your fleet, right? We're all here in this room and standing around here because we're interested in growing our fleet. Driver retention was one. I hope that was helpful to folks. I think it's transparency, treating your drivers like humans. I know, actually, Natasha, can you give them, I know we talked about before sort of driver appreciation and what you guys did to retain over 3,000 drivers before, and then also the 0 to 20 trucks and drivers and how you recruited them, about cards and the events. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's I want to make sure everybody walks away here. I know I see a lot of people taking notes. I want to make sure we give you really concrete notes to be able to implement today, to help grow your fleet. So.
Sure. So what I've always say, and I think even Sheree said it, consistency. So to me, it's always been, if you're going to, let's say you're going to focus on safety. We had a forum like this last night with some insurance companies. We were talking about different things and how you can reduce your insurance expenses doing things like as far as safety. And so you've got ELDs and you're watching sudden stops and you're watching speeding, or you're doing different things like that. Don't overdo yourself, right? So don't start something that you can't always do, because if I go out and I tell the driver, hey, you always have to wear steel-toed, or oh, hey, you better make sure you're doing a 3-point touch every time you get into that truck, but then you walk by it and you don't say anything, then you're not being consistent. I believe in small rewarding of drivers, but again, right now you may only have 5 or 10 drivers, okay? So you're gonna reward a driver once a year for X amount of safety miles, whatever you pick and choose. Make sure what you pick and choose you can manage, and as your fleet grows, you continue to do it. It's very hard to take something away once you've given it. So it's always easier to grow small. Make sure you can manage it. Make sure it makes sense. Don't put in too many safety guards that you yourself can't be consistent about, because it means nothing. It's no different than being able to smoke in the truck or not smoke in the truck, or making sure you walk out if you got yards. I know some people were looking at maintenance and things like that. If you've got a shop or you got your trucks parked on the yard, walk out there. Do a pre-trip with the driver. I mean, it's not hard. It takes 15 minutes out of your day. But again, I'm over the one, again, 3,000 drivers, 60 different facilities. I couldn't touch every one of them, but you'd always catch me in the break room, because you're going to find out what that driver thinks and feels about you when you talk to them. And not only is driver retention huge, but they're your biggest marketing place. They are sitting at a truck stop or at a shipper talking to the guy next to him waiting to get loaded. And they're talking about pay. They're talking about why they work where they work. They're talking about the type of truck they're in. They're talking about all those things. And they're either going to sell you, or that guy's going to take them from you.
That's awesome. Yes, please.
I just want to add to that. How many people are carriers in here again? Raise the head. Yeah. How many owner operators? Okay, how many drivers in here? Drivers right around you. you know, you got to be able to talk to them. Hey, I'm hiring, right? If you're hiring, tell us. I see some people don't even let you know they're hiring, and they're trying to figure out why. I just want to give you a solution. So, like I said, we do have 30,000 women drivers. Miss Jerry Banks, she is the founder of Life on the Road Recruiting. And so she's our recruiter, and everything goes through her. So please don't, if you want to send your emails, or you can go to Life on the Road Recruiting, and then she can be able to set you up with a driver. So that's your solution to the driver problem.
So you actually set them up with other carriers. So you take your drivers that are in your network, and you find them a good home. There you go.
Amazing. 30,000
There you
drivers.
go.
There you go. Anybody who's having a driving problem, she's got 30,000 of them. And I think I just want to highlight too, Sheree, it's little things as I'm hearing. I'm hearing a couple things. One, transparency, right? Two, the little things. Ask your driver, hey, do you smoke or don't smoke? Little things,
Or
right?
what's your rule? Like, if your rule is you don't smoke in the truck, then be upfront. That's your rule. Stick to it. But you got to make sure that you're, again, if you're trying to find a driver, you got to be very careful about where do you really want to pick and choose what you do.
Love that.
What lane do you want to be in? I like the Southeast. I'm not going to Washington. I'm not going up north. I don't like the snow. I'm a southern girl. I'm from Tennessee. So I like the Southeast, maybe Texas. That's important, because if you send us the opposite way, I may go, but when I come back, I'm bringing you a truck, okay? Raise your hand if you've gotten your truck back. It has not happened yet. That means that you're doing something right.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I want to switch gears here a little bit because we had a few topics that I want to make sure we're covering here for everybody in the room. I think fuel prices, I heard, is one, and a lot of people raised their hands, right? Fuel prices, inflation, costs, how do we optimize it? How do we save on fuel costs? How do we make sure we're running our fleets, our trucks, our entire business as efficiently as possible, right? So we can navigate sort of these, crazy times of fuel prices. I'm going to go ahead and maybe kick it off with Hans here and talk a little bit about, okay, so we're talking about technology. We're talking about how tech is the future. We're talking about growing your fleet, optimization, et cetera. But what does that actually mean? Like, how does it actually work? And what's in it for the fleet owners? What do they get back in return? And how do they actually navigate these fuel costs?
Wonderful. The fundamental problem that many of us struggle with today running their fleet is actually making good decisions with good data. Very simple example. Getting a 14-cent fuel discount doesn't mean much because you're not buying a discount. You're buying a gallon of diesel for X amount of dollars at the tank, at the pump. So getting the right data that allows you to make the best decision is very important. One of the things that's really hard for small fleet owners is that all your data is in different systems. So you have an ELD, that's a lot of data in there. There's like your location, there's your fuel tank level, there's HOS, everything is in there. You may have a fuel card, that's another part of data. You may have multiple fuel cards. Or you may have a fleet card. How do you use that data to connect it to your ELD data? Sometimes do, sometimes doesn't. You have your broker apps, and you know that you're going to take an Uber Freight app to go to Houston, but from Houston you'll take a Convoy load and take the Convoy app, yada, yada. So all your data is in different places. It's very hard today to pull it all together and make smart decisions. So one of the things that we started doing is pulling everything on the data front for you together in one place. So you can start thinking about, okay, my driver is going, the next 5 days, their loads are all planned out. I can actually help them make smart decisions about where to fuel. But then you need to think about, again, what are the fuel prices in different locations, yada, yada. So trying to put all your data in one place and then use the basic data to make smart decisions is very important. You can do that with your brain. Your brain is the best computer in the world. Or you can use a computer if you think they're fast at computing it. But I think the fundamentals is really just try to pull your data together and start making smart decisions with the basic data.
So I want to push back on that. I mean, what if privacy, data privacy? What if I don't want, one computer or company to have all that data? Like, what about privacy, data privacy?
Well, the data will be out there anyway, right? Today, you will not be able to not have your data in different places. It is out there, so everyone has a privacy issue with that data already in the first place. I think the important part is you will not be able to run a fleet today by having a filing closet where you lock up all your data today, because that's probably the safest thing, unless your building burns down. So you need to have a trusted technology provider. Ideally, you're in control of it. Like now, for us, we cannot use your data. We cannot sell your data. We are legally not allowed to do it. It's your data. If you leave us, take the data away. We don't want it. It's yours, right? So there's laws in place, and B, there's also a reputation and ethical behavior in the company in place. So find someone you trust. You can feel that the data problem is addressed appropriately, and go someone who's aligned with your interest, right? Find someone who's in the business of serving carriers, because if they are in the business of serving carriers, all they want to do is protect the carrier's interest. Don't find someone else who's making money somewhere else. Find someone who's working for the carrier as a customer. The moment they would leak out data, their business will fall.
Great. So again, I'm hearing sort of do your research, right? I'm hearing still like technology. Yes, everybody's very smart, but you only have so much brain power and energy in a day, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the greatest with numbers, and I definitely make human errors. So why not spend that energy, again, taking care of the drivers, but being very driver-centric, taking care of the people, your number one asset, your drivers, who are going to help you grow your fleet, right? So again, back to sort of the fuel optimization. Natasha, again, you managed 3,000 drivers before. You helped grow LaGrange Express from 0 to 20 trucks in four months. And now you're at, this technology startup and really shaping sort of the future of the trucking industry by helping other carriers grow their fleet. Can you talk us a little bit about how these fleet owners here can navigate fuel prices? How do we do that using technology and optimize that?
So I think there's a couple of different ways. We've been really deep diving and brainstorming with a lot of carriers over the last few months with knowing where the prices were going to go. I always go back to the basics of trucking when I think about fuel. My big thing is that you'll always hear me pre-trip, PSIs, air pressure, things like that are huge, idling, governed trucks. Those are all going to save you in fuel. That's all great. That's all, again, driver type stuff. I think when it comes to the technology, again, having the data and being able to review it and be able to make a good decision based off of, you do have fuel cards. Most of you may probably have a Pilot or a Fleet One or Flying J, whatever it is. We've heard a lot of people that are traveling, cross country say things like, yeah, I might have a 14-cent discount at Pilot, which is great. But the mom and pop across the store is already 15 cents cheaper. So how do I like leverage that, right? So we've been doing some testing recently, and we're actually doing some right now with a couple of our personal drivers we have running for us of when and where is the best place to fuel up? When should I stop? Do I wait till I'm empty? Not necessarily. Maybe I fill up one tank, maybe I fill up the next one. We can see it. And again, if you have, if you're driving, you may use some apps that kind of help you, like, okay, here's all the fuel costs that I'm going to be passing. What makes the most sense? But why have multiple apps, right? Not have your dispatcher do it. The one thing I was thinking about while we were all up here talking is, if you're a dispatcher out here, you're great, love it. But if you're also an expense to the carrier. You're not bringing in any revenue for us, right? You're an expense. So how do I make that expense the best? I bring in technology that can do the majority of what you currently do and take that out of the way and now allow you to be able to manage more drivers. So we actually had 20 plus drivers, and we managed that with 2 people. Really a person and a half, because with 2 people we did 100% drivers anytime they called, any breakdowns, any of that stuff that we did. We dispatched them. Some of them we found loads. We found fuel places for them to go fuel at. We kept track of all our fueling, and we did accounting, right? So those are a couple of other things when I'm thinking about just kind of brainstorming right now. But again, fuel is, we're all feeling it right now in the pocket. So if you do a little bit of everything, you'll feel the savings.
Actually, there was a really funny moment with Brad, the fleet owner in Columbus, who has 8 trucks, and whose drivers came to him and said, we want to double revenue this year. He gave us a second example. He said he had one, and this goes back to governing your truck. He had one driver who called him and said, I felt so bad about the fuel prices at the pump. I had to fuel up, but I drove back at 60 miles an hour.
It's crazy. I mean, again, we hear a lot of back and forth, and this is another one of those things, like once you give it, it's really hard to take it back without the driver feeling like you're only doing it for your own benefit, right? Again, for fuel, my theory is anything governed over 55 miles an hour, you're going to start wasting fuel, which is okay, but just keep that calculation in your head. For everything over 55, you're spending more fuel for every mile you go. Think about that when you're doing it.
Awesome. And I know, so we heard from Natasha again, managed 3,000 drivers in the past. Hans grew the fleet from 0 to 20 in 3 to 4 months. And then Sheree, a community of 30,000 drivers. So I would like to hear we're hearing from sort of old school trucking way, a new school trucking perspective, from a technology perspective. Would love to hear from the driver's perspective, right, in terms of fuel and how the drivers are looking at that.
Well, I'm going to speak from the carrier side. I drove my truck up here. Right? My truck is in the driver parking. So one of the things I did, I looked and I said, try to figure out how much it's going to cost me to get here. Because I didn't take a load. I had to pack my booth. We have a booth here. So I had to pack everything on my truck. And so one of the things, the first thing I did was stop and get a PM, right? And then the second thing I did was say, put Lucas in my oil, put Lucas in my fuel tank, okay? I added the acetylene of Lucas to be able to give me more fuel mileage. I saw it instantly go to 7, right? So I was 7 miles per gallon is what I was coming up here on. That saved me a lot of money. I spent $433 coming from Memphis, Tennessee up here to Louisville, Kentucky. So I understand the frustration. I'm gonna get, if any brokers in the room, I need a load back, okay? So those are the things that I do to be able to save more money. And of course, having a fuel cards, being able to, negotiate to be able to have that best rate as well, to save money at the pump as well. Trying to stay away from the large, well, let me not say that, but I try to, be competitive with my rates. That's what I love about Beyond Trucks, is because I use that. Okay, I use the app. I've been on CNN, National Geographic, almost everything, right? And then we have a large community, and I'm a carrier. How do I stay organized Beyond Trucks, right? So their system is a one-stop shop. That's what I love. The first thing I got asked was, do y'all have QuickBooks, right? How do I keep up with all my numbers? That drove me crazy when I didn't have everything in one place. They have QuickBooks, so that means you can pay everybody. Just a click of a button, everything is right there. What I love is the other day somebody told my truck, I was like, I know where my truck at. You can look in the system and see where your truck at in Beyond Trucks. Okay, so it's just, they have a demo, right, that they're offering for the Mid-American Truck Show. I definitely want you to take advantage of this opportunity to get organized. When 2022 is gonna make your life easier like it's made mine.
So I think I'm gonna this good segue is organization, right? And just a lot of people raise their hands when they said they invoice their, email their invoice or attachments, and it's all kind of fragmented. How many of you guys use more than one app to manage your fleet? Okay, like everybody. And is that annoying? Yes or no? Yeah, okay, very annoying. And I think there's a lot of error when it comes to that, right? I mean, these days, there's social media, and there's just so much going on, so much noise, it's hard to keep track, right? Again, thank you again, Sheree. So, we kind of heard from the driver perspective, a community of 30,000 drivers, ambitious, qualified. Again, She Trucking, if you guys are interested in the driver, hiring and retaining good drivers, please visit their booth. What number is it?
40577.
Yeah. North Wing Lobby, just we're both actually in the North Wing Lobby, so find us there. We heard again from Natasha from the fuel optimization perspective. Again, old school way of trucking, she managed 3,000 drivers before, then helped Hans with his fleet, the new school way of trucking, using technology to grow your fleet. They grew their fleet fleet from 0 to 20 trucks in 3 to 4 months. I want to talk about sort of organization, errors, in very, very simple terms. Hans, can you talk a little bit about sort of revenue, margins, when you're growing your fleet? How can you grow but still maintain your margins or even increase them, right? How do you make money in this business?
Interesting topic. So when we worked with owner-operator drivers, obviously when you take on an owner-operator, especially those who used to be company drivers, there's a big shift in mentality because they're suddenly running their own business, right? And they love the idea of drivers love the idea of making $200,000 a year. Well, you have lots of expenses you have to take out there, right? So at the end of the day, if your margin is 5% on a $1,000 load, right, you're actually only making $50 on a $1,000 load. So A, understanding your expenses is super, super important. Today, it is really expensive. Really difficult to understand your expenses. I bet no one of us know exactly how much a driver makes net. What's the net profit per driver? What's the net profit per truck? You can probably calculate an average by just calculating average, but you cannot calculate it individually for everyone. No one does, and it's ridiculous. Shouldn't we all be able to know what each driver makes? So one of the very fundamental problems we've started trying to solve is that through data. The second thing is error prevention. So we find a lot of carriers amongst our customers who come to us and say, we just realized we lost $30,000 last month. And I said, what happened? And they say, we lost invoices. And the interesting thing is, if you think about it, if all your invoices are $1,000 and you lose one, to make up for the loss of an invoice of $1,000 of revenue that you're missing, to make up for it, you need 20 other invoices to make up for the loss of one invoice to get back to your original margin of $50. You need 20 invoices to make up for one loss. That's radical. So making sure that you are not losing an invoice or you are not getting paid on an invoice because something is incorrect on the POD or the BOL, or the rate con said you need to deliver it to location A, but the dispatcher, the broker told you to actually deliver to location B. And the rate con said, hey, actually listen to the broker. Don't listen to what's on the rate con. We had these issues. So making sure your paperwork processes are super, super tight and prevent you from losing just one invoice is super critical. The second thing is accessorials. Accessorial management is a nightmare for everyone. I have a carrier who runs 100 trucks in their fleet. Every month, they're losing $20,000 in detentions. And there's usually detention disputes between brokers and themselves. So running a really tight process around detention, involving the driver, involving the broker, automating a lot of that communication can help you to avoid losing very valuable money. That helps you make sure that you're not operating at 5% margin. So you don't just make $50 per load, but you make $100 or $150 per load.
Okay, awesome. We only have a few minutes here, so I'm going to do a quick fire round and ask each one of our panelists one piece of advice. Again, how to grow your fleet wherever you're at, whether it's 0 and you want to get to 20 or 200 or 2,000, right? Wherever you're at and sort of in your trucking business journey, one actionable piece of advice that you can give to the audience that they can implement, right? And again, I'm going to start with Sheree. We're very fortunate to have her on stage, access to 30,000 drivers, and their whole mission is to support diversity and inclusion. And that's really a great marketplace for finding, some of the top drivers, right? And I think what you're doing with your nonprofit is amazing. It's growing community with the drivers, and really gaining their trust and loyalty, right? And giving them the support and the education they need to then go and serve the carriers, right? And help, again, rising tide lifts all boats, or gets trucks, right? And so, yeah, one piece of advice from Ms. Sheree, community of 30,000 drivers.
Driver retention, the truck don't drive itself. Driver retention is my, I think we elaborated enough on it, right? But also you gotta know when to scale your truck. I think everybody wanna scale, you don't know when, right? Anybody confused on when to scale? No, y'all know? Oh. But driver retention.
Great, driver retention. About Natasha.
I always go back to and kind of tag on a driver retention. I believe in the driver. I believe in touch. So, my thing is do what you say what you do, and use your time wisely. Let the system do the rest of the stuff. Technology's there. You can't fight it very long. So, to me, that would be where I would say spend your time wisely, touching the driver, keeping them happy.
Hans.
This is not a new industry. It's a very established industry, and a lot of the problems we face today, a lot of them have been around for a while. So my advice would be listen to the experienced people who have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. Listen to them. Use their wisdom to understand the problems, the basic problems, but use new solutions to solve them.
Love it. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Again, we have Ms. Sheree from She Trucking, founder and CEO. Community of 30,000 drivers. Natasha sort of straddles both worlds, right? She came from the old school way of trucking, managing, finding, managing, training, retaining over 3,000 drivers, then switched over to the new school way of trucking and growing your fleet from 0 to 20 in less than 3 to 4 months. And I'm hearing use technology to outsource everything, so to focus on your drivers. And we heard from Hans Galland, the founder and CEO of Beyond Trucks. Again, scaled his fleet from 0 to 20 trucks in 3 to 4 months. And I'm hearing, listen to the people, right? Again, use this opportunity, use Mats as an opportunity to network, listen from other people who are where you want to go, right? But listen to the people that have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of experience, but then use the solution that's for today, right? I think my biggest takeaway is do your research, right? Yes, Beyond Trucks is a technology solution. It's awesome. It's an all-in-one portal. We have a lot of happy customers, and we're quickly growing. We're at booth 40477. But we're not for everybody. So, if it's for you, we'll tell you. If it's not for you, we'll tell you we're not for you. So do your research. Make sure you find people, a company, whoever it is, that aligns with your values, that is rooting for you, that wants you to win, right? There are many companies out there. Find the solution that's best for you. Do your research, and come visit us at the booth. And we'll be here for a little bit. If you're interested, we are doing a demo. We have a desktop portal, mobile app. We can show you at the booth. We're in the North Wing lobby, 40477. 40477 North Wing lobby. And right across from us, again, is She Trucking, where she has access to 30,000 drivers. So thank you all very much.